Scale, exit, repeat. Know when to hold, know when to fold. That's what we're talking about today. How far do you take it? Like, how far do you take your concept? You've got an idea. You have a stage gate, which I call in the book, start, scale, exit, repeat. And with that stage gate, how far do you go? How far do you set it? Do you take your idea? If you know it's great, then why not just go all the way? Why not gamble the farm? Why not gamble everything? Why not take what you have in your business, your startup, and go all the way? Why not? Why not? Because there's a moment where just maybe you might want to think about holding or folding. And that's what we're going to talk today about with our host, Michael Gilmore. Michael Gilmore comes to us from Australia. Welcome, Michael, our host. I'll make you a moderator there. We're just going to, wait for a few people to get into the room here. And it's been quite a week over here.
Here, Colin.
Been quite a week. I was know when to hold, know when to fold. Yesterday, I sent out a notice to everyone in my incubator that we were closing down.
Oh, wow.
And by 2 hours later, the new landlord, dropped his rent and agreed to do a deal. And we now have another year contract. So we're, you know what? You know what's interesting about this one? So I was folding and the tenants all came together. This is like something out of a Christmas movie or something, because nobody wanted to leave. It's a beautiful building. You've been here. All the tenants came together and increased their rents on their own. You've never seen anything like that. So I was folding, but the tenants were saying, no, we don't want to fold. See, I'm the landlord of the tenants, but I have a master landlord for the building, right? But not to confuse things, but here it was a situation that happened yesterday at the Startup Club Incubator. I'm like, I'm not going to pay this. He was extorting a huge rent. He's trying to extort the new landlord. And I'm like, I'm not doing it. And we ended up announcing the shutdown, everything. All the people got involved. And sorry about the phone call there, but all the people got involved and we were able to keep it open. So maybe I was folding before I should have folded there. Maybe I should have believed the team, right?
Yeah, look, that's an interesting question. Oh, by the way, it is fabulous to be here, the Complete Entrepreneur. We're going to be taking a look at unpacking this topic in Clubhouse here and with some wonderful people in the room I can see, but as well as it's syndicated on podcast. So if you're happy listening to on podcast, it's great to have you with us as well. But if you're in the room right now and you're thinking, when to hold, when to fold, I've had some instances of that, then put your hand up. We'd love to have you up on stage. But so it's not just the Colin and Michael show, but it's everyone's show. Have you up on the stage and we can just talk about this. When should you hold and when should you fold? What is the triggers that actually occur? And you'll find that there's business triggers and sometimes there's personal triggers. And that's what the Complete Entrepreneur really begins to explore is what are the business, what's the personal side of being an entrepreneur as much as the business side of being an entrepreneur. Where we begin to unpack the life of an entrepreneur. And it's one of the most exciting things times in each of my week is this show. Been doing it now, I think, Colin, we've been doing it for, it's got to be close to 4
years, 5 years. Yeah. There's Jason.
Yeah.
I can see Jason coming in the room.
Yeah, which is great. Been doing it for 4 or 5 years and haven't made a penny out of it, but we have a ball, don't we, Colin?
What's interesting too is that the show, this is the value, AI is amazing because we take the show and we take the transcripts and we run them through AI and we actually put them out on startup.club as national articles. And each article will generally get the first page of Google. Sometimes the top spot on Google, depending on the topic. And that's pretty cool. So we're amplifying beyond just the room here. When you come on stage, you don't know how the impact you have on others. It could reach 1,000, it could reach 10,000 people when you come up here and share an idea with us on stage. It is really scary though of knowing when to hold and when to fold. Like, how do you do it, Mike? You went through some really tough times with your business and you must have thought, okay, I can definitely get on a Dodge right now and maybe I'll save a few dollars and maybe a little bit of respect and money for my kids' education or whatever it is. But you stuck with it, Michael, and you've been at your business now for about 20 years.
Yeah, I've been in business for myself as an entrepreneur all my life. And other than a brief stint where I was a computer games programmer and I wrote some of the code for the very first Lord of the Rings game many years ago back in the 80s, other than that, I've always worked for myself. And as you said, for the last 20 years, 19 actually, 19 years, I've been running a company called ParkLogic. And it's been an interesting journey. And when I've really looked at this, I never thought I'd be still in the company. But when I look at what has transpired over that period of time, there's been many times where it was fold or hold. And I think that the most of recent year, last few years, a few years ago, I had a business partner and we come to loggerheads all the time. After being together for a long time, we just kept on clashing. And he's quite a bit older than me. And it was a very traumatic time, in fact. And it was taking a personal toll on me. Even my health was getting affected. And just the stress of it all and all that sort of stuff. For those of you in the audience and you have a business partner, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Running a business partnership is tough work. It is really tough work. And you realize a lot of things along that journey. But anyway, so I came to the point, Colin, where it was a hold or fold situation, where I sat there with my business partner. I basically said, if I was to summarize many months and months of conversations, I summarized it by saying, it's you or me. That's it. It's you or me. And he looked at me and said, well, you could always buy me out. It was one of those hold or fold moments. And I just said, it's you or me. I got to the point where I was prepared to fold and just walk away. This is after being in a business for a long time. And it was just, I just found that it wasn't worth the personal toll anymore. And there's many other things I could be doing. Yeah, so I said to him, look, let me go away. I'm going to have a think about it. And so I did that and came back. And in that time away, by the way, particularly when you're really emotional about the issues, and this is a very strong emotional time for me, when you're really emotional, give yourself some time. Before you make a hold or fold decision, give yourself some time. And I came to a realization, I was on an international business trip at the time, that my business partner didn't have horns growing out of his head and a pitchfork or something like that, and being a horrible person. It's very easy to demonize people in situations like this, particularly when there's a lot of personality at stake. I just realized he was at a different stage in life and he wanted to go ahead and put his foot on the brake of the car, of the business, and protect his little nest egg in the future. I wanted to keep my foot on the accelerator. And the car was just spinning its wheels. Yeah, so hold or fold. So I came back and in the end, I held Colin and I bought him out and the rest is history. But it was a tough time. Whenever you get those hold or fold issues in your entrepreneurial journey, you have to take a look at them and give yourself that space. If I was to give one word of advice to every entrepreneur here, it is nothing. It's very rare you have to make an instant decision. It's very rare. Most of the times you think you have to make an instant decision. Just resist that temptation and take some time out. Take some time out to really think about what it is you want out of that particular situation, hold or fold situation. And once you've taken some time out and you've made your decision yourself, then follow through on it. So it was in the space of, after I got back from the business trip, a few months later, I owned the business. We executed very quickly. And it was an interesting journey, Colin, going through that. And the other thing is to realize, and by the way, about a month ago, there was a bit of a lump sum up front plus an earn out in this particular deal. And it was a couple of months ago, I did the last payment. And so that was a great time. But one of the things I think is really important, particularly when you have a hold or fold situation, like with a business partner or a colleague or whatever it is, do whatever you can to maintain the relationship. Because ultimately, business is built on relationships. And it's very easy, like I said, to demonize someone in a you go, I go type situation and resist that temptation. You'll find all the people around you will say, it will get around you and go, then to start to take your side and say, oh, they're horrible, they're this, they're that, and all that sort of stuff. Resist the temptation. Go and try to maintain that relationship, because if you can maintain the relationship to some level, then what you'll find that if you're in a negotiation like I was thrust into and so forth, like with Barney Mac, it became a less painful process. And if you maintain the relationship, I've been working with this guy for 17 years before we parted. I still regularly have lunches with him. And to me, that's actually really special to maintain that relationship.
So, Michael,
And yeah,
yeah, and I think a lot of our listeners are still, and a lot of our readers, they're still early entrepreneurs. There are people who are thinking about launching a business and they're saying to themselves, here's my idea. It's pretty damn cool. And by the way, we've seen a surge in business formation in 2026, one of the highest ever, 36% increase over last year. And a lot of that's being accredited to AI and the ability to use AI to help you get your business off the ground. We're not going to talk about that today, but a lot of entrepreneurs have this concept that, or they want to get out there and they have an idea, but they don't know they don't know how far to go. They don't know how much money to put into it. So I guess what I'm leaning towards here is, but you remember that car game that you used to play in the 80s where the car would go around the track? And you get extended time and you put it on a quarter. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So in the book, Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat, I talk a lot about this concept for new startups is come up with a smart stage gate. And a smart stage gate, smart being specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. Okay. Specific. It's very, very, we know exactly what we want to achieve. It's measurable. We can measure it. Obviously attainable. It's not crazy. It's realistic and it's time bound. So it's at a certain time. And I used to, when I was teaching in the NSU, I would often tell the students that in the incubator that time bound meant on this day, at this moment, at this time, at this hour, literally. And you talked about earlier about giving yourself room. So if you set a smart stage gate, so let's say hypothetically, you want to launch a new AI app and you say, okay, I'm going to give myself 90 days or 180 days. So it'd be like November 1st at noon, I will have an MVP with 1,000 people on it. That's my first stage gate. And if in between now and then, I'm going to give myself the room to make errors or do whatever and push off the naysayers. Okay, you're going to have naysayers and naysayers in this world, right? You want to push off the naysayers. Okay, you don't necessarily want to embrace the naysayers like your mom, because that could also lead you down a dangerous path. But you want to be able to say to those around you, whoever, look, I've given myself until this date to get this project out, and this is what I'm doing. Okay, when you've set that date, then you can set some goals, or you can try to do what you need to do to get success towards that end goal or that stage gate. I actually call it a stage gate, not a goal. It's a little bit of a different concept, right? But the point is you're working to achieve that, and you can experiment and you can sometimes make mistakes and 2 steps back and 1 step forward. But I'm giving myself until the date. Now, if you hit the date and you don't achieve that stage gate, because the stage gate was done in advance. It was done 6 months in advance. You wrote it down, hopefully, or maybe you even bought the Start workbook on Amazon. And literally, there's an exercise you can actually literally write it down with a pen. And it's the Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat official workbook for Start. And once you've written down your stage gate, if you don't achieve it, you either got to pivot or kill it. Okay, pivot, which means it's not working. We all agree that we were going to achieve this. We told ourselves, we made a contract with ourselves. And we said to ourselves, that we're going to achieve this stage gate by this date. And we didn't hit it. Okay. So then we're going to either pivot or kill it. Now, when you pivot, you've got to come up with a different strategy because it's obviously not working. If you kill it, that's a smart strategy too. Don't listen to me. Killing your startup idea can sometimes be the best thing you ever did because the next idea comes up and it is a killer idea. And that idea never would have come up if you were in purgatory. It is purgatory to continue to launch a concept that is continuing to fail, that you do not have demand for, you cannot get investors for, that it is purgatory. I've seen entrepreneurs do this for years, for 3, 4, 5 years. They do it platforms to nowhere. I'm telling you, you got to set a stage gate. And when you do that and you release yourself of that company and you've learned a lot from it, every entrepreneur's learned a lot from that experience, then you launch into your next idea, your next concept. And with that concept can take off. You can look at historical examples of this too. And there's a lot in history around a lot of big companies that when they first launched, I remember GoDaddy, Bob Parsons, and he talked about, had an opportunity to meet with him about 10 years ago. And he talked about the business and how he started GoDaddy. And they weren't even in the business of domains whatsoever. They were just in the business of trying to figure out what to do and try to make some money from something. And they just put a team together, a real smart team, put some money together, and they started doing concepts and failing. And then they said, why don't we do this domain thing? Okay, let's try this out. It's coming. It's a new thing. That was 2000. It's a new thing. So why don't we try this domain thing out? And it worked for them. So I would encourage all entrepreneurs to think about a stage gate, a specific point in time, a smart stage gate, specific, measurable, tangible, realistic, and time bound, and give yourself the room to achieve that. It also does show investors that what you said when you first hit them up for money and what you delivered, it actually is there. We've also used it for companies in our incubator here for compensation structures. So we say to the CEO, I did this for Geeks for Less like 20 years ago. Very successful company, 800 employees now, by the way. And I said to the CEO, I said, okay, you're going to get $80,000 salary until we break even. And then we give you $150,000 salary until you make $1 million in profit. And then we give you $250,000, that kind of stuff. So you can actually set stage gates to also align with compensation as well. So I know that was a little bit of a methodology, but I think that if we do that and we remove the emotional aspect, which is hard, by coming up with a stage gate in advance, that can increase, or at least we can get to that point in time and we can reflect upon it.
Yeah, look, Colin, there's some real wisdom in that. And in your book there, it's full of wisdom and everything like that for entrepreneurs. The Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat book. It's just an awesome book, by the way. But I think one of the things I've noticed with a lot of entrepreneurs out there is they end up running what I call zombie companies. Zombie companies are companies that are neither profitable or loss making. They're just not making much profit at all. They're just getting by. And I call them zombie companies because they're just not going anywhere. And sometimes you just need to look at these and say, you know what? It's not worth my opportunity cost to keep on running this. Maybe it's better just to fold it. And yeah, so it may be a sad moment and all that sort of stuff, but sometimes it's better to fold it. What I quite often will do is I periodically go away by myself, just take my laptop, typically take a book or something like that. And I read the book. And for the first day, I just dump all my thoughts, all my frustrations about my business or life or whatever into a Word document. No one gets to see that. No one. And then the second day, by the time I was emptying myself, the second day, I'm actually, my brain's ready to really properly think and start to make decisions and things like that. And some of those decisions are, you know what? I'm just going to fold that product. Yeah, it was a really good idea, but yeah, it's just going nowhere. And I just need to close it down so we can focus on this other area, which is actually resonating with the market. And one of the most dangerous things an entrepreneur can do is to fall in love with their product. Yeah, it's very dangerous. And one of the most dangerous things also an entrepreneur can do is not fall in love with their product. So there's a juxtaposition there almost. So it's a bit of both. But when you fall in love with your product, what you want to do is you want to keep on pushing it forward when really what you should do is pull a gun out and shoot it. And that's a really difficult thing to do for an entrepreneur. Most of the time, it's the bank that does that or investors or something like that. They actually kill it because the entrepreneur cannot emotionally handle that process. And it's really sad.
Yeah, there's a lot of ego
It's
involved,
really
Michael,
sad.
isn't it? There's a lot of
Huge
ego. Like,
amount.
you have to admit that you failed.
Yeah, but it's a better way of looking at it is too many people have a zero-sum game. And I think you put it really well, Colin. They have a zero-sum game of, I have failed, a bit like what you said then. But the reality, you haven't failed. What you've decided to do is close something down so you can focus on something else. Doesn't mean it's failed. You've just done a whole lot of learning and all that sort of stuff to move forward into something that you believe will be more successful. But at the same time, because we also, as entrepreneurs, need to also fall in love with our products as well, so we can show our passion and all that sort of stuff. Don't make these decisions quickly. Go away, give yourself the space and time to really think about the decision. I think as entrepreneurs,
Yeah, I remember what Jim Collins. You remember Jim Collins? Do you ever read Good to Great?
yes, of course.
And he said that the companies that turned the corner were the ones that had this. The CEO was optimistic, but also very realistic. So it's like this balance between these two worlds. You're optimistic that we can do a great job here, guys, but this is the problem. We have this problem, that problem, brutally realistic. And I found that paradox. It's almost like what you're talking about. Like that's what made me think about it.
Cautiously optimistic.
Yeah. But look at Elon Musk. He seems to just say, I'm going to take over the world and does it somehow. I don't know how he does it. We can't always look at Elon Musk and other entrepreneurs like that and say, oh, they're because sometimes there are exceptions to these rules. Okay. Let's be quite frank. Okay. There are exceptions, right?
Yeah. You look at the bell curve, right? And don't get me wrong. I love reading about what Elon does and some of his things. Is that I'm just about finishing a book called The Algorithm by one of his guys, his chief lieutenants for many years and all that sort of stuff. And a great book, by the way. But they're at the far right-hand end of the bell curve. The far right, extreme end of the bell curve. And you look at them, the Zuckerbergs, the Gates, the Roger, the Baumers, all those sort of people. They're far right-hand end of the bell curve. And to me, it's okay. You can beat yourself up with the far right hand of the bell curve, or you can just say, you know what? I think I just need to kill this. I need to move on. I need to fold. And I need to start the next thing before someone else tells me I have to do it. And it's always better to be in control of your destiny, Colin, than it is to have someone else take control of your destiny. So make decisions early and just do it. I remember 20-something years ago, and I've shared it on this show before, I got shafted for literally millions of dollars by I got caught up in a multinational merger and all that sort of stuff. And they didn't get paid millions of dollars. And it was a really tough time for my wife and I. And there was one thing I knew, that when you have a financial situation, and most businesses, entrepreneurs are encountering the financial situations, make decisions sooner rather than later. Otherwise, someone else will make the decision for you. And I went away for a couple of days, developed the plan, and just made decision after decision, and bang, as I just folded one thing after another and that sort of stuff, so I can get focused on really what was going to drive value for that time for my family. It wasn't for my business even, it was just for my family. How do I actually move my family forward? And it was a tough time, but you just got to say, I'm closing that, I'm folding. And you just make decisions. And if you're in a financial situation as an entrepreneur, go away, take 24, 48 hours, not longer than that, and come back with a series of decisions. Fold. And it could be you do that. It could be folding product lines. It could be that you've got to go fire a bunch of people that you really don't want to fire, but you just got to do it. It could be you got to close the business. You just have to do it. And they're tough calls, but always give yourself the space and time to really think it through. I have a saying, which is seek a multitude of counselors, then make the decision yourself, and then own the decision. Seek a multitude of counselors. Talk to your accountant, talk to your lawyer if necessary, and all that sort of stuff. Get expert advice.
How about your AI now too, right?
Yeah, talk to your AI and get some expert advice, make the decisions, and then own it. Don't go along and say, oh, but they told me that I needed to do that. Seriously? Put your big pants on, right? That's an Australian saying, I think, which is fine. You're at the grown-ups table now. You're not the little kids.
You know,
at the family
seriously,
gathering.
I really love you. Yeah. Like,
We're a live show. You know how it goes.
Yes, yeah, that happens. But yeah, so my view is this: own those decisions. Go ahead and own them and follow through on them. But seek a whole lot of counselors. Yeah, that's a bit of advice on the folding side. On the holding side, Colin, the thing I found with a lot of entrepreneurs also is they've got great ideas, but there's so much you can do before you spend $1. Develop a plan. Develop a cash flow. You say, I don't know how to do a cash flow. Then learn how to do cash flow. You can sit down with your accountant if you want to, and they'll help you do a cash flow. I don't like accountants' cash flows. I have my own cash flow for my business. I have a CFO, but I have my own cash flow. And why? Because I focus on the KPIs of the business. They'll focus, say, just on the monetary outputs. Yeah, so much you can do. You can develop your cash flow. You can actually have a project plan of this has to happen, this has to happen, this has to happen, this has to happen. And you can work out, you say, what resources do I need to allocate to this? You may not have a person's name, but you say, oh, the marketing person or the product manager's person or whoever it is. Take the time to do it and refine it. Then you can take lots of people through this. You've not spent $1, not $1 so far, and they're a bit of your time, and you get lots of input into it. And if you're young and you're in the listening to this podcast, or you're in the audience, you're younger, let me tell you, 99% of business owners I know out there who are older, always happy to help young people. Always happy to. If you be a bit humble and say, hey, look, I've got this business idea. I need your input around my cash flow or my project plan or the business plan itself. And let me tell you, they're going to help out. And you listen. And then you go to the next one. You listen to them. And you tweak things and so forth. Then you listen to the next one. If you're young, it's your superpower. It's your superpower. You can just ask anyone and they'll help you out. But also remember, a good rule of thumb is this. If you want to know how to go and bake bread, don't speak to the butcher. So in other words, you want to learn about a business idea and how you can launch this thing, speak to other entrepreneurs. Join, I think you're a member of EO, is that right, Colin?
Yeah.
Join these organizations. Get alongside other
Startup Club. How about Startup Club? Join
incubators.
Startup Club, right? It's free.
I'm amazed, Colin, the number of people who I know listen to this podcast or are in Startup Club right now, even listening to this, not picking on anyone here in the audience, but they don't subscribe to the email.
Yeah, just subscribe to the email list. Yeah, it's free.
Yeah,
and
I'm thinking, I'm sorry, but your brain, it's the cheapest thing you could do to educate yourself. And it's amazing. Then you just go start up a club
so,
and you
Michael,
put your email address in.
we have something at pod.com. It's took a lot of history here behind this company.
Yes.
Again, we're not just talking about theories here. And we run companies. We do this live. We run an incubator. And one of them is paw.com and paw.com. Great products, by the way. And the company has a rule now. Listen to this one. 20 words, okay? And I'm doing it from memory, so just bear with me. But test and fail more.
Yeah.
Cut losers fast. Scale winners big.
Exactly.
And we spent years at this company doing the opposite, just, you know. Because what happened was when people behind certain products would launch them, their ego was at stake. So they had to scale them even though they were not successful products. And they tried to scale and spent millions and millions of dollars on this. And you know exactly what I'm talking about because you know the story well. and it led to a lot of issues. So about 2 years ago, we made some major changes in the company, including the leadership. And now it's test and fail more quickly, scale your winners, and cut losers fast. And I know this sounds like the most basic advice you can give, but it's not something that's innate or natural, because when someone gets an idea and they're launching it, or an entrepreneur, especially with someone who's in control, and they launch it and it doesn't succeed, they got a lot of egg on their face. And so the best way to handle this one, when I say test and fail more, is you test and fail more. Sometimes you don't even need to launch a product. You can sometimes go on Facebook, run fake ads, and just do the credit card refunds. Take like 20 orders, check out the demand, or even if it's just a post on Instagram, check out the kind of response you get to that post. If you really get no response, you really shouldn't be thinking about moving this forward. I'll give you an example of this one, another live example. I wrote the book Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat, 39 global awards, blah, blah, blah. And by the way, this weekend I'm going to Vegas to receive a gold medal for the Pencraft Awards for entrepreneurship. But that being said, for the book, but not for me, for the book. But that being said, I posted on LinkedIn my next book. And it's the topic, by the way, is also an Entrepreneur Magazine article, which is being released in about a month or two. And it's called How to Catch the Next Tech Wave Disruptions. And again, I'm doing this by memory. Okay, everyone, as this club has disruptions from the internet to AI. And I posted that on LinkedIn and had over 50,000 views on, or some crazy number of views. I can't remember the number exactly, but it was in the tens of thousands. And people in comments and hundreds of comments and stuff. And it made me realize, okay, people really want this book, right? And all I did was a LinkedIn post, okay? Now, I might have a little bit more notability than most people in the audience, but the reality is that all I did was a LinkedIn post. And I got a lot kind of response. I've done LinkedIn posts where they just fall flat. Very much. Most of them do, actually. Probably 95% do. But this one just took off and got a lot of excitement around this idea. Now, what I did is I used AI to help create the cover using the same look and feel of the book, Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat. And there was a sense that this could be a real project. It wasn't just me. So I was trying to make it real versus just theoretical. But I was testing it. The next test I'm doing is this article on Entrepreneur Magazine. And that's going to come out in about 2 months. And we'll see how the kind of response we get. But a lot of it's based on Jeffrey Moore's work with Inside the Tornado and Crossing the Chasm. And I've had the chance to meet him a couple times and interview him, and really think that no one's ever covered the space like this before. So that's the idea there. Test and fail more, scale winners quickly, cut losers fast. Okay, that's it. Very simple, 20 words.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a great process to actually go through. And as I say before, you can do a lot before you spend 1 cent of your dollar, of your money. And make sure you do it. And that's my word of advice to every entrepreneur. If you're wondering whether to hold or fold, then it's very easy to hold, but it doesn't cost you anything. So just keep on going. Like, just refine the concept. Yeah. And build the business model. Take a look at it. Is there other ways of doing this? Who are your competitors? What's the strengths of what you're doing? And what's your weaknesses? Typical SWOT analysis, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Taking a look at these things and building that business plan. How are you going to get it to market? You may have the best product in the world. The classic scenario is like Betamax versus VHS. Remember the old days of video. Betamax versus VHS. Betamax was...
We got Betamax? It's Betamax.
Yeah, Max, whatever. It's a much better system. VHS killed it, even though it was worse. So you may have the best mousetrap in the world, but unless you know how to market it and actually put it out there and make strategic decisions, then you're going to fail. So
isn't that funny? So that's a different concept, right? That you actually have the best product and you fail.
Yeah. Just because you have a great product doesn't mean...
So it's not just about the product, it's about the distribution, it's about the standardization, it's whatever it is. With respect to the product.
The product's used. For instance, like in the case of that, it was like, who had the content? So the people at VHS went along and secured the content rights for lots of different movies and all that sort of stuff. And so by securing the content, they locked Betamax out. Yeah, so it was all about the use of the product, not the product itself. So you need to think broader than just your idea. Like, how's it going to be used? One of the things that we're doing, for instance, right now is we've got a product that we're launching out there in a beta sense, and all I want to do is collect information. And it's interesting that you talk about fail fast, Colin. And we actually have a number of people in my company. Their sole job is to fail, and fail really fast. That's their KPI, is to fail as fast as they possibly can. And every now and then they'll strike some gold, and we'll take that and we'll actually adopt it right across the entire, say, product line or something like that. And then they'll say, okay, that was great. Fail fast. Try different things, A/B test continuously. It was just stupid things. I remember years ago, I was doing some online advertising, and I had a picture of a girl advertising the product. And so we had a black-haired girl, an auburn girl, and a blonde-haired girl. The blonde-haired girl got twice the number of clicks compared to the black-haired girl. I'm sorry, it was just, there's the data. And I killed the other two, went with the blonde-haired girl. We then said, okay, but sitting down or standing up, and went through it. Oh, it was standing up. Okay. We got twice the number of clicks once again. Fantastic. It costing me no more. I then said, okay, so what's the next thing we're going to test? And we went through one test after another, changed the color of the background. The crazy thing we did recently, we had some links on a page, and we had a square box around the link, a little square box. And we then changed it to be more of a pill-shaped box. We doubled the click-through rate. Just failing fast. Guess what we did? We adopted the pill-shaped box. And too many entrepreneurs, they're not constantly trying to fail fast. So there's a couple of people in my company, they're just testing everything. We changed the background of a page from being dark to light. And once again, we massively increased the click-through rate. It cost me nothing to do that. It cost me nothing. But the results were profound change. You can change the font. There's so many things you can do as an entrepreneur. And I'm amazed the number of entrepreneurs say, I don't have time to do that sort of thing. I'm thinking, you don't have time not to. Yeah, so you're going to fold when all you should be doing then is take some time out and work on your business rather than in your business. We can get so busy as entrepreneurs, Colin, so busy that we hit this fold or hold sort of decision, and rather than taking some time out to really think about what the business is doing and all that sort of stuff, then we'd rather do that. We go along and race around. We have a saying in Australia called like a headless chook. Chickens, you chop the head off, they could be racing around the backyard for a while. Yeah, you race around like that, where you have no direction. You're just trying to go from one problem to another, but you don't understand, Michael. No, you don't understand, and you need to take some time out. So I've got a slide, my second slide in a deck I'm preparing for an upcoming series of meetings. And that slide is a picture of a beach. And it's actually a beach I've walked along. And the question says on there, I've got it right in front of me, it says, what business are we in? And that was the thing I spent a day contemplating. What business are we actually in? And I came to the conclusion for my business, it was user intent. I then asked another question, what depends on this? So ask, what business are you in and what depends on this? So in my case, I answered, I said, everything does. And that had a dramatic impact to how I then viewed my business. And it only occurred because I took the time out to give myself the luxury of thinking. And I've been trying to educate my management team, Colin, on this, is that as your business grows, The management team needs to encompass the concept of doing less but thinking more. The problem is the skill set when your business is small is all about doing. Everyone rolls their sleeves up, they pack the boxes, they do whatever it is to get the product out. And so you've got a team that has a mindset of doing. But as the business grows, you need a team or a management team which is a mindset of thinking, not doing. And it's that transition. Some people can make that transition. Some people just can't make that transition. And so I've been for the past 12 months educating my management team around we need to migrate our thinking to thinking, and that we may think and plan and so forth like that. But we have other people now that the company has grown who do that, the actual mechanics of the work. Yeah. And it's an interesting transition, but so many businesses, Colin, they go across various thresholds. And one of the thresholds is that one, which is migrating from doing to thinking. And they see it as a hold or fold moment. I can't get there. What's going wrong? My team is terrible, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes you've got to replace your team, which is sad. Other times you just need to go along and help them do that transition. Sometimes you got to work with them along that. And some may not make it. But I always have the view, maybe I'm the eternal optimist, that I think everyone can embrace change if they're willing to. And there'll be different changes go through in a business. The challenge for the entrepreneur, though, is to realize the change is coming up. And that you've got to brace yourself first and educate yourself so that you can lead your team. If you're suddenly like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? Oh no, then you haven't taken the time out to really think. There's a story of a guy, he was the CEO of his business. And at one stage, every day, the various people in the company that looked out the window and they saw him walk across the road, I think it was a couple of times a week, and go into an apartment building. And they thought, oh no, he's having an affair. Yeah, oh no. And the morale was going down. Finally, it came back to him that everyone thought he was having an affair. And he said, what? What do you mean? So he grabbed his senior leadership team and all that sort of stuff, said, come with me. And they went across the road and they went up to an apartment. And inside, he built a woodworking workshop. And he was like making tables and doing lathe work and all that sort of stuff. And they realized he wasn't having an affair at all. That was his happy place where he was giving himself the luxury to think. We all need our happy place as entrepreneurs. And we need to give ourselves the luxury of time to think. And sometimes it's sitting down, for me, it's staring out at the ocean. And other times it's, for some people, it could be woodworking. Other people could be going for a drive somewhere. Whatever it is that gives you that time to really think so you can work on your business. That means when you hit these hold or fold types issues in your business's life, then you can actually make a wise decision rather than a foolish one. Give yourself that luxury of time to think. And realize that as you journey in your business, it will go through stages. As you journey with a partner, your relationship will go through different difficulties at different points. When I talk to partners nowadays, I say to them, any new partners, I said, let me tell you, this is great. I'm really excited to be working with you. I can guarantee you that we'll hit a road bump at some stage, but as good partners, let's keep those lines of communication open. Let's work on the problem, not on the person.
Yeah. Hey, Michael, we got Benjur and Addy on the table. Do you want to?
Sorry. Yeah. I got on a bit of a roll there, Colin. Okay, Benjur. I'd love to hear from you, Benjur. And welcome to the Complete Entrepreneur on this interesting topic of know when to hold and when to fold. Over to you, Benjur.
It looks like he just took a phone call, but glad
He's just jumped
Aid.
on a phone call. So let's go to Aid. Aid, it's great to have you on the Complete Entrepreneur. Over to you.
Thank you, Colin. And hello, everyone. I just wanted to kindly ask, how do we go about creating a repeatable system in our business? I find out that for most startups, the biggest challenge is being able to prioritize. And I've just used Cloud Code to arrange, organize all I'm doing. And I've got about 12 pillars. Mind you, I'm a solo entrepreneur. So at some point, I'm just thinking, I've got to find a way to systemize some of these things. I hope that is clear enough.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting thing. And I've just read a great book, by the way. It's called The Algorithm. Read up on this, is how do you systematize a process so that you can, in the immortal words of Jack Welch, so you can basically continually repeat it over and over again. I think that was the Six Sigma and all that sort of stuff, or whatever it was. Or you can use something like in the algorithm I was reading about is question every requirement. When you take a look at a process, you question everything and delete any part of your process you possibly can and simplify every part of the process down to its core constituency and accelerate the time. In other words, how can you make this process faster? If it's a production line or if it's a piece of software and everything like that, and then automate. The last step in the process is automate. It's not the first step. Most programmers, if you're using Claude, my guess is you probably got a tech background. Most programmers they leap to the tools, they leap to programming or something like that before they really think about the problem they're solving. As they try to automate before they've done the other 4 steps. And so my advice is do the other 4 steps and really think about it. There's so many examples of this where I've seen developers, they go and try to code something before they actually manually do the process. You can learn so much from manually working your way through a process. You learn the nuances, you learn where the issues are. If you try to put the automation first, I can guarantee you it's going to blow up in your face because you don't actually really understand it. So that's my 2 takes. Colin, I'd love your thoughts on this too. It looks like Colin stepped out.
Yeah, I think it's dropped off.
Yeah, so I hope that helps you out there, Ed.
Yeah, I think if I add that to the point you were making around finding your happy place, because again, finding clarity, I think is one of the biggest challenges, and then also like taking those steps. I'll try them because it's just it's to listen to these things, but to implement them again sometimes can be a bit of a challenge. My other question, if I'm able to put that in, is I'm struggling to start a podcast, and that's just partly due to analysis paralysis and all the other stuff that comes with starting stuff for the first time.
Yeah.
For anybody else that's
very good question. This time I'm going to use the immortal words of Margaret Gilmore, happens to be my mother. And she was famous for creating lists and lists of things to do. And she said to me one day, she said, Michael, yeah, it's great having these lists, but at some point you just have to start. Otherwise, you'll just have lists. This is the whole analysis to paralysis, right? You just got to start. And I think that's there's some sage advice in that. Is it the difference between an entrepreneur and a wannabe entrepreneur? Is the entrepreneur finally just starts and they just listen and they go, okay, so how do I do this? I don't know how to go along and set up a little studio. I guess I don't know. That's called Google, YouTube. Okay, I can plug these things together. And you just start learning. I remember when the internet first came out about 94 in Australia. I think it was 94, 95 in Australia here. And I saw it and I recognized it because I was in the bulletin board system days. And I'm a firm believer that what you've got to do is, if you want to really understand something, the only way to do it is actually start. And so I founded an ISP. I had no idea how to run an ISP. I had to learn how to set up a Unix system. I had to learn so many things and to set up modems and all. I literally had no idea. But I thought, yeah, there's got to be a way I could work on this. And so I ended up piecing it together, and I spoke to people, and I got to know a whole lot of people who had a bit of background in that area. And then I wanted to start up a web development business. I had no idea about web development. Like, you couldn't hire web developers. They didn't exist. And it wasn't like you just go and just hire one job on a job board or something like that. Job boards really didn't exist either. But it's a separate issue. But yeah, so it was really, I just started, and I read a book. I remember Elon Musk was famously asked, how did you become the chief rocket scientist of SpaceX? And he said, I read a book. And I remember the reporter looked at him very blankly. What do you mean you read a book? He said, I read a book. And he just got better and better from there. And there's so many things, Aid, we can do. But it always comes down to, like my mother said, start. And you'll fumble around, you'll mess things up and all that sort of stuff. But when you start, it forces your mind to embrace learning, to learn about everything. And you force you, in that time, really listening to customers. I love hearing from customers. I remember one of my technical team was getting so upset because a customer was complaining about something. And I said, no, that is fantastic news. They said, what do you mean? I said, they're so invested in our product and service that they're prepared to take the emotional pain of explaining the problem to us. The worst for a customer is one just drifts off and disappears. That's the worst customer. But this person is prepared to go along and tell us the problem. And suddenly the developers, oh my gosh, I didn't view it that way. I said, yeah, the customer that complains is the awesome customer. I'm not talking about the chronic complainers and everything. You may want to give them to your competitors, but the good customer I'm talking about. Yeah, and it's sometimes we just need to view things, but start and learn. I hope that helps you out.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you.
No, absolute pleasure. You guys have been listening to The Complete Entrepreneur. My name is Michael Gilmore, and it's an absolute pleasure each week of spending an hour with you. I would like to thank my fellow host, Colin Campbell. He's the author of Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat, an absolutely fabulous book. I'll sing his praises because he's not here. I would really highly recommend that every entrepreneur have a read of this. It's fast becoming the Bible of entrepreneurship. And there's a couple of workbooks he's put together as well. Trust me, he's not making lots of money from this. He just has a passion for the entrepreneurial community. So go to Amazon, pick up your copy of the book. Yeah, I'd also like to thank Aid, who's been up here with me. It's been fantastic having you ask those questions. And all those listening on podcast. The Complete Entrepreneur is a real passion of mine, where we look at not just the mechanics of entrepreneurship, but we look at what it means to live the life of an entrepreneur. We did tackle different things, the stresses, the strains, and so forth like that as well. It's a show that happens at 5 p.m. every Thursday, and here on Clubhouse. Or you can go to startup.club and sign up for the newsletter there, like I said before. I'm sorry if I was a bit harsh there, but really sign up for the newsletter. It's the best thing you can do. It's once a month. You'll get a newsletter, and it's full of awesome information distilled into one newsletter. So I'd highly recommend that. Startup.club. Just go there. But in the meantime, tomorrow I'm jumping on a plane heading to San Francisco to a conference called Startup Grind. If any of you are there, please say hello to me. I'd love to see you there as well. It's going to be a hotbed of investors, and lots of other people are going to be there, and founders and so forth. It'll be great. Anyway, take care, everyone. I look forward to seeing you next time on The Complete Entrepreneur. God bless.